My name is Bob McGinnis. Been in the company 26 years. 20 years of that has been with the street. The last 6 years, 5 or 6 years, I've been with Survey. I went to the doctor. I haven't been to a doctor in years, but I went to the doctor, and he goes, "You have a tumor." And he starts explaining this tumor to me. Every doctor's office, they have these things, and he's just talking about this tumor, the size of it. But the size of my tumor was the size of a grapefruit, kind of like squished down. So, as he's talking, I'm like, "Dr. Weisbluth, excuse me a minute. You telling me I have cancer?" And he's like, "Yeah." I know he wanted to say, "Yeah, dummy. What do you think I'm talking about?" You know? Cancer does not run in my family. Nobody. I researched this. Nobody's ever had cancer. It came out of nowhere. And I continued working, and I was very out in the open about this, as a couple of you know, especially the guys in the survey department. I wanted to be out in front of this. I wanted to be out in the open. I wanted to be the poster boy for colon cancer. I didn't know nothing about it. I didn't know anybody who's ever had it. My second opinion was at Sloan Kettering. And when I sat down with Dr. Weiser, he examined me, and he told me I had stage 3 colon cancer. Okay, doc, what does that mean? Go over the whole thing. And I asked him a question that he probably gets asked 1,000 times a day. What are my chances with this? My wife was with me, my brother-in-law was with me. And he looked at me and he said, "Listen, Bob, you have a good chance, but you have a very long way to go." I was like, "Okay." He said I had a good chance. That meant that I was going to war with this thing, and I was ready. My last day of work was January 5th. My first day of chemotherapy was January 6th. When you go through a CAT scan, when you meet with your doctor, you're sweating because you're worried that this thing is going to go north. Stomach, liver, lungs, brain, wherever it's going to go. It never went north. It always stayed local, thank God. And to a cancer patient, that means everything. At the same time, obviously I was losing weight because when you go through chemotherapy, all sorts of crazy stuff happens to your body. You do not feel like a human being. You do not. All I kept saying to myself was, I just want to feel normal again. Well, August 4th was my surgery date. August 4th came. It's probably the biggest day of my life, And I told my wife the day before, I said, "When I open my eyes and you see me, you just let me know this or this." And she went like this, which meant that it was successful. And when I was going through what I was going through, I just kept saying to myself, thank God it happened to me. And then when it happened to my wife, it was the worst possible thing that could have happened. I got through it. I knew I was going to get through it. But when she got it, I know the way my wife is. Marianne, my wife, went for her routine mammogram. We find out she's got breast cancer. Okay. It was like, okay, we just kind of scratched our heads, But now everything is reversed, okay? Now I'm going to be her caretaker like she was my caretaker. While this was going on in January, obviously I've been out of work. I have not gone back to work yet. Mike called me to say, "Bob, what's going on?" He had no idea what was going on, and I told him. Obviously, I didn't know what was going on at work because we were so involved. The next thing I know, my friend Tommy comes to my house. Maybe some of you know him. His name is Tommy Hayes. At the time, he lived around the corner from my house, and he was pretty much at my house every single day throughout this whole ordeal. He would just barge in and just have a beer, and if you know Tommy, he'd make me laugh. That's what he did. That's what Tommy does. He makes you laugh. Tommy comes into the house, and I just seen it on his face. My wife was here, was with me, and 2 of her friends were at my house. My wife is a school teacher, and her friend Denise and Virginia were at the house. They came to visit her, plus talk over a few things, like how we're going to take care of her time. My wife only had about 12 or 13 days left of her own because of all the days she used for me. So Tommy says to me, I thought he was going to sit down and have a beer, whatever it was. He goes, Bobby, can I talk to you outside? And I'm like, what's going on? It's not like Tommy. We go out on my porch, and he tells me what everybody has done for me. He said to me, and this is exactly how he said it. He goes, Bob, you know all those, I don't want to get into how I lost the days because that's just way too involved for me. To this day, I don't even understand it, and it doesn't really matter. But he said to me, hey, Bob, you know all those days, I have 5 weeks vacation, you know all those days you lost from you being out? And I said, yeah. He goes, we got them back for you. Not only did we get them back, we doubled it. And if anybody knows Tom, he starts walking away. Because that's Tom. He starts laughing and he walks away. And I'm standing on my porch. He's about 20 feet from me and I'm just, what are you doing? Come back. So he comes back, he explained a little bit. To this day, I don't know all the details of it. I know some of the people that were involved with doing this. Annie's sitting here, I know she was involved. Obviously Mike was involved. But there are a few people in this room tonight. Like I said, majority of this room, I don't know. But there are a few people in this room that have donated days to me.
Frank started it. He called me up and he said, what do you think, can I do that? He got the list going. Then he got in touch with Annie. Then he got with Tommy Hayes. Then we got Ralph Price, Steady Ralph Price.
Mike Dorsey.
Mike Dorsey. It just snowballed to a point of he just had an idea and it just took off. So
Tommy's at my house, he told me what everybody done, and you can just imagine how I felt. I had no words, it was just so overwhelming to me. I go back in my house, Tommy left, you know, that's just the way Tommy is. He just, okay, bye, Bob. And I go back in the house, and I must have had this weird look on my face, and, you know, they all asked me, again, my wife, her friends, what happened? So, obviously, I told them what Tommy just told me, and, you know, her friends, my wife started crying, because it's like, her friends were stunned. They were like, obviously everybody's going to say the same thing. I have told this story to probably 1,000 people, okay? And everybody has the same reaction, which is the way it should be. What an incredible thing that was done for me. And that's only half the story. Mike only told you half the story before. Because like I said, my wife was down to about 12 days. Her friends didn't say nothing that night. About 3 or 4 days later, her friend Denise calls me up. And she says, Bob, they call me Rob, you know, hey Rob, you know that thing that your friends did for you at work? They collected all those days? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, well, we did the same thing for Marianne.
Wow.
Wow. They got 33 days for her. They collected. Like in 2 days, they got 33 days for her. And this is what they told me. They said, Bob, what your guys did inspired us to do the same thing for her. And if that is not a story... Now, in that time, those 33 days, me and my wife were able to sit down and really think about what to do with her time. And we realized, you know something? I think the best thing for you to do is retire. We got her retired in those 33 days. I'm going to tell you something. 62 guys gave up a precious vacation days, and I don't know how to thank these guys. What I did was, the only way I could know, besides going around, you know, if I see guys, give them a hug, whatever. Frankie's one of those guys that always called me. Stevie called me a lot. Mike called me a lot. If I'm forgetting anybody that's here, I apologize, but a lot of guys called me all the time. Sent me cards. You know, I know how hard it is to call a cancer patient. I understand that. And guys would call me maybe about 2 months after finding out about me, and they would apologize. And would tell you, what's the matter with you? You know, I said, it's okay, don't worry. I know how hard it is to call. Because you don't know what a cancer, you don't know if he's hooked up to stuff, you don't know what's going on. But whenever somebody called me, right, Mike, I was always extremely positive,
yes,
right? Okay, I was never down. Thankfully, my daughter was up in college. She never really saw me at my worst. I know when I was going through chemo, I kept thinking about those kids on the 9th floor at Memorial Sloan Kettering. And let me tell you something. I peeled myself off the floor when I thought of one of those kids going through what I was going through. And those kids that are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, they never did nothing in their life. No reason why they should even have cancer. But I kept thinking of that. One of my goals when I was going through the chemo at my worst was to get up every day. Just to get up out of bed and take a shower, which is something that I did. I took a shower every day, and whatever happened after that, some days I was sleeping 12 hours a day, 14, 16 hours a day. I slept 24 hours straight once. That's just the way my body dealt with this. I know it sounds crazy, but that's exactly what happened. As we stand right now, me and my wife are both cancer-free. I already told you about what these guys did. And by giving up one vacation day, look what happened. Look what happened with my wife. It just so happened, Tommy comes to my house. That night, her friends were there. I mean, what are the odds of something like that happening? They go in the next day and start collecting days for her because of what these guys did. I want everybody to understand what these guys did, and I applaud them. I applaud the guys that did it. I really do.